were looking at Avery's computer, checking for images of pornography and torture.
This is part of the investigation into the death of 25-year-old Teresa Halbach, who was last reportedly seen on Stephen Avery's property 2 weeks ago. Stephen Avery still in the Calumet County Jail tonight on an unrelated weapons charge. He's expected to be charged tomorrow with Halbach's death. Investigators say they found DNA evidence linking Stephen Avery to the murder of Teresa Halbach. And Jason Allen joins us with more on what is in these latest search warrants.
And inside these warrants is just more detail on the extensive evidence investigators found inside Stephen Avery's residence, including what they found in the Avery Auto Salvage Yard. Now, while searching the cars, the warrant says cadaver dogs hit on 3 separate vehicles, not counting Halbach's SUV. One of them was covered with a tarp, one had a rag inside it with blood on it, and a third had blood in the front and back seats. Now, the warrant also lists some other items found on the property, including burned clothing, a partially burned shovel, and a barrel and remnants of steel belts that were from 6 tires used to start a fire. Another quote says a number of 5-gallon type buckets have been located on the Avery compound property, which appear to have been utilized to distribute the burned remains. For the first time, the warrant also says investigators believe Halbach was the victim of not just homicide, but also false imprisonment and sexual assault.
Thank you, Jason. And Calumet County Sheriff Jerry Poggle calls the Halbach case the most emotional he's ever handled. Our Jerry Burke sat down with Poggle today to discuss why.
Jerry, it was what was done to this person. It was the means that was used to try to dispose of the evidence.
Sheriff Jerry Poggle is still waiting for the crime lab to tell him if the remains found last week are Teresa Halbach. Poggle says he'll be stunned if it's anyone else. Poggle says Stephen Avery tried to conceal the incinerated remains.
When bone is burnt, it takes on a different characteristic and a different color.
Poggle said experts he called for help detected what might have otherwise gone undetected.
We had people who investigated arsons, who investigated these type of things, who were out there, and they says, hey, we've got something here. This looks like bone. We were lucky to have those individuals out there.
Poggle said having to tell the Halbach family about what happened was the most emotional thing he's done in 33 years of law enforcement.
That was hard. It was very hard. Something I hope I never have to do again.
The sheriff admits that this case has taken such a toll on him and his detectives that they're all losing some sleep.
There were officers who were choking back tears and upset with what they had to see and what they had to find in this case.
Poggle still fights back tears when he talks about this case. As for the suspect, Stephen Avery, Poggle is sure the right person is in custody.
Very confident. DNA doesn't lie.
Jerry Burke, Action 2 News, Chilton.
The 8-day search of the Avery family property and salvage yard in Manitowoc County is being called one of the largest investigations in Wisconsin history. Teresa Halbach's SUV was found November 5th. The search was called off November 12th. It included nearly 200 police officers a day, separated into security search, evidence collection, and investigation teams. Up to 200 volunteers, including family and friends, searched wooded areas surrounding Avery's property. A total of 700 acres of salvage yard and adjacent properties were combed by searchers. Divers searched 6 area ponds for clues as well. Nearly 4,000 vehicles on the Avery salvage yard were searched 3 times, first for Teresa, then for evidence of fire, then for additional evidence. Ironically, Stephen Avery's arrest comes at the same time Governor Jim Doyle plans to sign a sweeping criminal justice reform bill inspired by Avery's wrongful conviction. Jeff Alexander explains.
3 months after Stephen Avery walked out of prison, lawmakers, judges, and law enforcement officials created the Avery Task Force. Avery had spent 18 years in prison for a brutal crime he did not commit, and the task force wanted to make sure it did not happen again. For a year and a half, the task force gathered information, even met with former Attorney General Janet Reno. The result? Some major reforms, including using electronic recordings during interrogations, new eyewitness identification procedures, and making DNA technology more effective. 2 weeks ago, the bill passed unanimously in both houses, and Governor Doyle told me today he will sign it, despite the pending murder charges against Avery, because Wisconsin needs it.
You know, I know all the citizens of Wisconsin, our heart goes out to the family. And I assume that the legislators who named this task force probably wish they had a different name for it.
Representative Mark Gundrum, chairman of the Avery Task Force, says he's in utter shock over Avery's arrest.
He had tears in his eyes when it passed, that these important reforms would be there. And it's kind of hard to grapple with that somebody that shows emotions like that, like a human being, could in fact be a monster.
Gundrum tells me it's ironic the new reforms inspired by Avery's past are being used in the case against him now. Jeff Alexander.